Yesterday was the anniversary, the 5th year anniversary, I believe, of the BP oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, and shall we say, some of the actors have not been behaving all that well. Actually, let me refer you on this to Dar Jamail. I don't have Dar on the board. Oh, he's on Skype. Okay, great. Dar, welcome.
Hey, Tom. Good to be with you.
Great to have you with us. Dar Jamail is an investigative journalist, staff writer with truthout.org, and you wrote this brilliant piece, Gulf Victims Suing BP Disasters Compensation Czar. They're not going after, or I believe, from reading your piece, it looks like they're going after BP as well, but in addition, they're going after Ken Feinberg. Tell us the story. Give us the backstory here.
Ken Feinberg was brought in the immediate aftermath of the beginning of this disaster, literally just less than 3 months after the well exploded and sank and started this whole thing in motion. He was brought in, basically the man agreed upon between the federal government and BP to head the Gulf Coast Claims Facility, the GCCF, which was the body set up that people could go to who had suffered loss, business losses, personal losses, etc., and file claims to get compensation back from BP. We all remember the famous saying, BP is going to make you whole. Well, for starters, what they did is they came in and, people were in severe economic distress. Fisheries were closed down. People literally weren't making ends meet right in the immediate aftermath of the disaster occurring. And so they were given some options. One was you can wait and play the long game and try to come in and sue BP later and get some compensation that way. Or you can sign this document we have for you here that will give you $5,000 immediately as long as you promise sign those. They were left.
Ken Feinberg was the guy who administered the 9/11 victims' claims, wasn't he?
Exactly. He's acquired the moniker the Master of Disaster because he's brought in the wake of corporate fiascos like GM manufacturing defects, where there's going to be a lot of lawsuits, or the 9/11 disaster or terrorist attack, and in this case, the BP disaster. He's basically brought in to act as a very effective defense attorney. Company that brings him in, and we have to bear in mind that BP paid him $1,250,000 a month for nearly 2 years to run the GCCF. So he was paid $25 million by BP to try to theoretically, from his perspective, be an independent representative, trying to help people get as much compensation as they could from BP. So if you just look at who's paying for him, I think that's about as far as you need to look in this instance.
Yeah, somebody pays me $25 million. I'd probably hoops for them. I'm not speaking of Ken Feinberg ethics or morality, but he's clearly a good representative for the company. So how are people responding to this?
Well, the article I wrote is about 3 different people, and there's actually more than that, but 3 different lawsuits going through one firm, group out of Florida, who are, as individuals, suing Ken Feinberg's firm because they believe he grossly misrepresented himself. He made several public statements and things in writing that they're taking him to task over, basically promises that he never kept and never intended to keep. And just to give you a little more perspective on this, and you might remember this, Tom, in 2011, Judge Carl Barbier in New Orleans, who basically the federal judge that the major lawsuit against BP, in the 3 different parts of that lawsuit in the wake of the, he actually, Feinberg was so out of line and misrepresenting himself, trying to make it look as though he were actually an independent person that had the best spill victims in mind. Judge Barbier came out in 2011 and actually passed a ruling instructing Feinberg, you can no longer claim you're independent, and you can no longer claim you're acting in the best interest of these people who are trying to get compensation. That's how out of line he was.
Wow. So you're officially a shill for BP.
Yeah, that was the
Ken Feinberg.
unspoken message.
Yeah, amazing. Well, he must be a Republican. Anyhow, so where is this going to go? We're talking with Dar Jamail, investigative reporter with truthout.org. Where's this going to go?
Well, it's going to take time. Obviously, these big lawsuits do. I mean, we still, BP's playing the long game. I actually received an email yesterday from someone, a victim of the Exxon Valdez disaster in 26 years ago, and him saying, "Look, yeah, BP's doing the same thing. They destroyed that oil spill destroyed my business, and I'm still, trying to get by today." More than half the people who had lawsuits against Exxon for that disaster have died. So that's the oil company's strategy, is to play the long game. So we can expect this to keep being drawn out. BP's, of course, to them, it's just an exercise in trying to minimize their liability over time. And so far, given how much destruction they've caused and continue to cause across the Gulf Coast, they've been doing a pretty good job of minimizing their liability.
That's astonishing. And a corporation can live forever, and a human can't. So they just wait them out, let them die.
That's the strategy. That's exactly what we're seeing.
That's incredible. What is the state of the Gulf right now?
Well, this story just focused on one aspect of it, but another Truth Out reporter, Mike Ludwig, has the website right now focusing on the fisheries. He went out with some of the Vietnamese fishermen out of Mississippi, and they're basically saying, look, our catches immediately plummeted in the aftermath of the spill and have never come back anywhere near what they were before the spill. So the fishing industry is suffering, continuing to have record number die-offs of dolphins and other marine mammals, and other worrying signs that show that there's ecological devastation that's going to go on for many years. And a lot of the wildlife biologists that I've spoken with down there have told me exactly the same thing, that we're not talking about even single-digit years of recovery here. We're talking about decades. Because if you look at, for example, the Inkstock oil platform disaster in 1979 in the Bay of Campeche on the other side of the Gulf of Mexico, that part of the Gulf of Mexico still hasn't recovered from that. So that gives people a little bit of perspective of how much time we're talking about, wow, and particularly considering how much larger the BP spill was than that one.
Yeah, that was like 35 years ago or more.
Right.
That's amazing. Right. That's amazing. Yeah. So is BP claim that everything's fine now, we've taken care of this? I've seen the ads that they're running on all the TV networks, presumably so they can hand the TV networks millions of dollars and the TV network investigative reporting about them. But maybe not. Maybe their intentions are just to say, hey, look at how wonderful we are. They're basically, in the minute we have left, Dar, they're basically saying everything's cool.
That's exactly what they're doing, and that's exactly how they're doing it. You just lined it out. When you run these multi-million-dollar advertising campaigns and just start shelling out the money to the networks, putting your propaganda out there, everything's fine, go back to work, eat the fish, everything's good. That's exactly what they're doing, and the reality is basically the opposite. This is an ongoing disaster that continues to impact millions of people across the Gulf Coast.
Right. Seeing the need of people in the Gulf and the fishermen to make a living, and the need of the rest of us not to die of cancer. Is the food coming out of the Gulf Coast yet safe?
From what I've seen, talking with what fishermen continue to find out there in their nets and on the ends of their lines, as well as the research I've done for stories I've written about seafood deformities and how deep into the food chain this disaster has gone, I think it's safe to say that the seafood is not safe to eat out of the Gulf of Mexico, nor will it be anytime soon.
Wow, amazing stuff. Dar Jamail, you're a bright light in the world of journalism, and so I'm so pleased and honored to have you on the program today. Thank you.
My pleasure, Tom. Thank you so much.
Keep up the great work. Dar Jamail, his piece over at truthout.org, Gulf Victims Suing BP.